What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Gameplan podcast. Kris, what has happened over the week with some weekly news?
Well, we're going to discuss this later, but the NBA draft just happened last night, so there's a lot to go over there. Some big news coming out today was Celtics forward Gordon Hayward declines his $34 million player option and will be slated to become a free agent.
That's tough.
Klay Thompson, star guard for the Golden State Warriors, is out for the season with a torn Achilles.
Unfortunate.
Some random news like DeAndre Hopkins with his spectacular catch from this past weekend. Madden put him to a 99 overall. So he joins an elite group of players, which includes Aaron Donald, Christian McCaffrey, Micah Thomas, Patrick Mahomes, Stephon Gilmore, and Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just got some other stuff, some trades and stuff that we'll talk about later with the NBA and reactions to the draft.
Yep. Any other news, or is that it? I mean,
that is really it. There's not too much. The draft pretty much took a lot of eyes towards that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of trades happening within the NBA, but obviously before we get into it, the only two organizations in sports that has been going on right now is football, aside from other individual sports such as the PGA. As we're looking forward to this week's slate of games, some games that have caught my eye are Syracuse versus Louisville, UCLA versus Oregon, Indiana versus Ohio State, Auburn versus Tennessee, Georgia Tech versus Miami, Washington State versus Stanford, USC versus Utah, Arizona versus Washington, and Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma as we get into rivalry season within NCAA football. Kris, of those games, which ones do you find interesting in terms of matchups?
Honestly, I don't really know. A lot of these could be one-sided slates. Probably Auburn, Tennessee. I'm trying to look up what there are right now. Actually, never mind. Looking up at the line score, Auburn is 4-2 with Tennessee 2-4. A lot of these kind of like, I feel like, are one-sided affairs.
Mm-hmm. What you're saying? Majority of them are one-sided.
Yeah.
I ended up looking at them just from a record and stat perspective. The first game that I mentioned, Syracuse versus Louisville, is probably the number one mistake that I looked up. Syracuse is 1-7 and Louisville is 2-6. I really thought about it as ACC schools, right? They're both ACC schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a conference rivalry.
No, we could talk about the USC-Utah game. Utah was coming off of a appearance in the Pac-12 championship game. This will be the first game played this season, and USC is right now 2-0. The plus minus is a -3 favorite to USC, so it's going to be a pretty close game.
I was gonna. I'm going with USC. I think even though Utah did had a good year last year, and they made it to the Pac-12 championship, I think USC is already well prepared. They're 2-0, and I mean this Utah. It's not their fault that their games have been postponed or canceled, but I think USC is more well equipped to play this game out this year. Sorry, this matchup this weekend. One of the interesting picks that I had is I chose Indiana over Ohio State. Indiana has kind of been showing out lately with 3 games or 2 games that they've played already. I think 3, right?
What do you mean? How many games they played? The 4-0 right now. So
did they play Michigan 2 weeks ago, or was it 2 weeks ago? Or who have they?
I believe so. I don't have the schedule exactly in front of me right now.
Well, I mean, they've been a little bit more successful in starting off this year, and I think they're well more equipped than Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State postponed their last week's game.
Yeah, and that's what I said last week. Michigan, Wisconsin, and Wisconsin destroyed after having 2 weeks of no prep or practice.
Yeah, you never know, but some analysts have been saying the Ohio State of this year is not the same Ohio State last year. And it's like caliber wise, they may be there in the Big Ten, but um, probably squadron and depth chart wise, they aren't there. So I think I'm gonna have to give that one to Indiana. Um,
That's a tough one because right now I'm looking up the stat lines and stuff. Right now, the betting odds are favoring to Ohio State
I would assume so. I mean,
by a 20-point spread.
holy shit!
Yeah, that's
I'm so
a
glad.
lot of people are putting the money on the under with Indiana covering that, which I could see easily. Like they're not going to be blown out by 20 points or anything, but I don't really know if they have the enough talent to defeat one of these top-rated schools. It's going to be a relatively close game,
Oh yeah,
but we'll
I
find
think
out Saturday morning. Huh.
as I've been saying, like it comes down to how prepared they are from the past weeks, or just how well adjusted they are to COVID and whatnot um, of what they've been going throughout the week. One game that I think you'll find very surprising that I chose is UCLA winning over Oregon. Kind of, kind of just because like I don't know. I think UCLA has been showing out like a little bit, but they have a new coach, right? Or am I wrong?
UCLA, I think they still have Chip Kelly.
They have still have Chip Kelly. I mean, they're 1-1. Oregon is 2-0. I don't know. I can't see Oregon coming down and winning against a kind of improved UCLA. I don't know. We'll see this weekend, but I
Yeah.
think UCLA over Oregon.
Right now, the spread is 13.5 favoring Oregon.
Mm.
It did open at 15, no, 14.5, close to 15.
Holy
But most people are betting with Oregon to cover.
Mm. Well, that's
So,
a lot, though.
what was that?
I dropped a lot, right? You said 14.5 to 2.5.
14.5 to 13.5. It only dropped by 1 point.
Okay, I thought I heard 2.5.
No. Oh my God. It's 2.5.
Imagine.
I'm putting so much money on the over right there. Just
And then between Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, who do you think is going to go out in that rivalry?
what conference? I just want to get there.
Big 12?
Big
I think.
12, Big 12, Big 12. That's Big 12. There we go. Big 12. Yeah. Okay, State, Oklahoma.
Who do you think is going to come out the victor in that?
Oh, man, they're both like relative ranked in the
Yeah.
quotations.
hmm
Um, hmm. I would like to say Oklahoma State, but deep diving right. Oh, not deep diving, but diving into it, Oklahoma could pull up that upset. They're actually not even upset. They're semi-favored right now. It has dropped a lot. It opened up with Oklahoma favoring at 9.5. It's now 7 points. Oklahoma's favored, but
That's not that big of a drop. But I mean,
it's 2.5 points.
yeah.
Like
I think I'm going
it's
with,
gonna be a very close game.
yeah. I think I'm going with
And that's
Oklahoma.
I think that's one of the prime time afternoon games right there. So on
Yeah,
ABC.
it's later in the afternoon. I'm going to Oklahoma. It's more so from a marketing perspective, boomer, sooner. That if you got a good slogan like roll tide or whatnot, and like boomer and sooner, I mean, I might go for you. But I think Oklahoma has shown out this year. Not really certain of the history of that rivalry, but yeah, I think I have to go for Oklahoma this year or this matchup. Well, let's move on to some news that we covered before. Some resolved news, actually. Wichita State's men's basketball coach Greg Marshall resigns after abuse investigation. Um, there was a settlement of $7.75 million over 6 years to be paid. Um, from a quote from Coach Marshall is, "This was a difficult decision, but one I feel was necessary for my family, the university, and most importantly, the student athletes. I remain grateful for my years spent at Wichita State. I wish to thank the coaches, student athletes, the university, the community, and all of the Shocker Nation for their unending dedication." Goes so on and so forth. That he's been there for the past 14 years. However, the players did not take to the announcement well. Our student athletes are our primary concern, and this comes from the athletic director Darren Boatwright. Um, while the university acknowledges the success of the basketball program under Coach Marshall, this decision is the best interest of the university, its student athletes, and Wichita State community. Wichita State will continue to pursue the excellence with the help of its student athletes, staff, and loyal supporters of the basketball program. And moving forward, I think one of the assistant coaches will be taking an interim position for head coach. Sorry, I almost called you coach. Kris, what are your,
No, no, no. Call me coach.
I will not call you coach. Uh, what what is your reaction to this? I mean, you know, from an authority perspective, I think it was the right move. But from
Yeah.
let's just take it from a player perspective. What do you think of this decision by Coach Marshall and how he went about it?
Hmm. Hmm. Sounds Um. Please remind me. Was this abuse against his players, or was this abuse on campus, at home?
Oh, on campus, against players and coaching staff alike, and as well as another student athlete that has nothing to do with that program. So someone outside of the sport.
Uh, then I probably feel a little glad if it was abuse against the players or his fellow coaching staff. Like you know that he was almost a toxic, brought a toxic environment. No,
Yeah, toxic environment or
yeah,
personality.
but after a while, I was looking for personality to that environment.
Hmm.
Um, and it probably was not the best for these young men.
Hmm.
Growing up, like these are still relatively kids. Like most of them are like 18, 19 years old. So
Hmm.
this is a first step out into the real world. So having that type of coaching mentality, um, even if it goes from physical or even a mental abuse, it's not good for these young kids. And I feel like they will prosper now with a new coaching uh, philosophy brought into that clubhouse.
Hmm. Um, like you said, these are still kids. I mean, you're coming into college as a 17, 18-year-old, or you're a senior at 21, 22, depending on when you were born. Um, so not to sound harsh, but I don't feel bad for the path that he's taken, because if these allegations are true, and if I were an athletic director, I would hope that the head coach would make the decision himself instead of um, the entire department as a whole. And it's like if these allegations are true, I think it would be in the best decision for you to make the decision yourself instead of having us make that decision. Because if we have to make that decision and you're refusing to acknowledge it, then I think that puts a bad stain on the coach's reputation instead of the coach doing it himself, announcing it himself, and hoping the best for the university. Um, yeah, I don't feel bad at all. Like I,
No,
I think
no,
I think justice has been served for these kids in particular, because as
exactly.
we're saying that they're kids, and I mean
Yeah,
they're
ex- yeah. They're just kids. So let's move on with some more football news. With COVID breaking out still and numbers are getting higher across the country, um, there's a shakeup in the SEC football schedule. Is it
ACC.
all due to the Miami team, University of Miami, or is it other schools to
Miami.
contribute with that? Just Miami?
So there have been outbreaks within the program, from Coach Manny Diaz himself. He said after Week 11 win over Virginia Tech, the shorthanded Hurricanes were on the brink of not being able to play due to the coronavirus issue. And all the Hurricanes were down more than a dozen players because of the positive test and contact tracing. Those issues have come to roost as the ACC announced on Monday that the final three games on Miami's schedule would be modified due to COVID 19. Um, I have them here. So on November 28th, Wake Forest will be played at Louisville. Western Carolina will be played at North Carolina, so UNC, and then Louisville will be played at Boston College. Um, the ACC has moved Hurricanes games from the 21st against Georgia Tech to December 19th. Um, November 28th game against Wake Forest to December 5th, moving it back. Everything is going to be moved back. And then Miami's game against North Carolina, that was originally on the 5th, to be moved to the 12th. Um, and then Georgia Tech game to the 19th, so on and so forth. What could have been done to prevent this from happening, do you think?
better protocols, better participation by these players and staff members to know where they're at, uh, what are they thinking, like going into wherever they're going, and what kind of repercussions that it might have on them, not just from like a university level, but like not mental, but like personal level. Like if I get sick, I'm causing our team a chance of playing.
Yeah.
We've seen so many teams in the past few weeks
Just
not play any games right now. As we talk about, we saw a lot of games last week. There is a couple games this week that are postponed
mhm,
again because of
any.
a coach getting COVID, a player getting COVID.
Mhm. How many games have been postponed so far? I haven't checked the actual list.
Give me a second.
I think the last time I checked, about like 2 or 3, but I'm not entirely sure if they
Yeah,
updated.
it's been roughly around 2 or 3 every week.
Mhm,
Houston SMU is postponed.
mhm.
Uh, UCLA, Oregon, TBD.
I think I saw something about that. I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know if TBD means like they still haven't picked a kickoff.
I think, yeah, I think that's it. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So other games, we got two Texas schools that are both out. Mississippi, Texas A&M game is postponed.
Mhm.
Texas versus Kansas is postponed.
Not that much of a big game, but okay.
Well, these are all teams in the top 25.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just go into the top 25. Any conference you want me to look into really quickly?
No, I think the overall, like, how many games, like, so what, 4 or 5 have been?
Yeah, that was about like three right there, and that was just like the top 25 schools.
Oh, no, that's fine. I mean, those are big schools themselves. Um, do you think, like, as of now and probably looking to the future, that they should isolate their athletes, or is that too much of a social, like, strain for them or a mental strain?
It's a good idea, but who's going to stick their neck out
Yeah.
to make that happen?
Mhm.
I've had conversations with people in the industry um, with what ideas like they could come up with. Like, so for next season, after they saw what they did this year did not work or even slightly work. Like we saw the NBA bubble work, but it did cost the NBA a lot of money, and doing that for a full season will
Mhm.
cost them a great deal of money.
Great deal of money, yeah.
So it's just like all these are great ideas. It's just who wants to stick their neck out
Yeah.
and see if it works. If it works, great, you keep your job. If it doesn't work, well, you just got fired
Yeah.
and you lost the company whatever millions of dollars.
Mhm. Yeah, when I first saw this, I thought the title line was for next season, not for this season. But then after reading about it, I was like, holy shit, all their games got pushed back. Like a total of like 6 got pushed back or whatever. But they only listed like 3 on like the different locations that we're gonna do. Um, I mean, I like the bubble idea from the beginning, with or without fans, was probably the one way to actually save people, not save people. Well, yeah, save people's jobs. Let's just say that, as well as save these kids because you don't know where they're gonna go, and it's like you can't control them outside of the locker room. You can as much as possible with emails and whatnot, but it's like you can't control these kids' lives at the end of the day, if that makes sense. Um, but I feel like future preparation would be needed, obviously, and yeah, um, this year was really just a test, that to say the least, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like we know it's a weird year, but
yeah,
it's we don't know like how much this is going to change
hmm,
the rest of the time.
yeah. So all hopes for next year and them actually getting it right. So let's move on to the NFL news. Week 11 predictions. Tonight's game rematch against the Cardinals versus Seahawks. Who you got?
Hmm. I don't know. I feel like the Seahawks are kind of failing me with my prediction. They are favored by 3 right now, so that's a pretty good margin to say you could kind of lean to the Seahawks. Cardinals have won a couple of games,
Hmm.
but it's been like almost lucky breaks.
Yeah. Hmm.
As last week we know that was like a 1 in a million catch right there. Like
Yeah.
throw that 10 more times and we'll probably see the Bills winning.
Okay. Hmm.
So I'm gonna go lean with the Seahawks.
I'm going with the Cardinals.
You always have to go against me.
No, no. Made these choices before. I think it's in Seattle, right?
In Seattle, but Seattle's 4-0 at home.
Shit. I'm still going with the Cardinals.
Yeah, Cardinals. I was gonna give you a little upside. Cardinals are 3-1 away.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm still going with the Cardinals only because I mean, I don't know. Seattle's defense is not it's been not it for the past couple of years, especially this season.
Yeah, like they did get Jamal Adams back last week,
Mhm. But
but it's still their defense is one of the lowest rated in the league.
yeah. So
Where the offense is like almost number one or top three in the league.
mhm, mhm. Let's move on to some Sunday games. First two, Titans versus Ravens and Packers versus Colts. Who are you taking for the Titans versus Ravens game?
I'm gonna go Ravens. After the beating down in Foxborough, I think they're gonna have a bounce back week.
Hmm I'm going with Titans. That damn Derrick Henry. Do not say anything about me.
I was just messing with you. Okay, and the next game, Packers and Kurtz.
Yep.
Um, Ooh, this is a tough one. Colts have a really great defense. Packers, Aaron Rodgers, you can't really go against him.
But like the Colts have been like doing significantly good the past 3 weeks.
Yeah. Hmm. Uh, I can't even give you. I want to go with Green Bay, but it's a toss up for me.
Hmm,
I'm just leaning to Green Bay because I like Aaron Rodgers.
hmm. I'm going with the 3 week success for the Colts, so I'm going with the Colts this week. Next matchup is the Chiefs versus Raiders. Another rematch from from.
Is that game even going to happen?
I have no clue. I didn't look into it. I just looked at the schedule.
Yeah, like I know it's the game that I'm just forgot to mention this earlier, but the Raiders are out 10+ players
Uh oh.
with COVID,
Uh oh. Gruden's gonna get mad if it's
and
like,
it's all on the defense.
oh shit.
I think they lost 6 or 7 starters, and the rest are reserve player or backup players. So
Mm-hmm.
it does put a big hole in your defense if you can't put anyone out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like you get what 2 guys, and you whatever backup wide receivers or
Yeah.
running backs.
Yeah. Let's just put this on the back burner then. I initially had the Raiders. Even if they are sick, I say the Raiders are gonna be a little bit better against the Chiefs. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, hopefully the game is played. It is the Sunday night game,
Oh my god.
and I'm surprised they haven't like pushed it back or anything. Like switched it like when they did the Buccaneers game.
Mhm. Mhm.
Only time would tell.
We forgot to mention
Um,
last time. Did you know that the Bucks like had a 7 hour delay on their plane last Sunday before going to North Carolina? Yeah, they were stuck on the tarmac in their plane for like 7 hours. The day they were supposed to arrive.
wow.
Yeah, that was just like interesting to me, and also like, how the hell do you have plane failure during that time and not have like a backup plane? But speaking of the Bucks, we have a Super Bowl 53 rematch between the Rams and Tom Brady. Not really the Bucks, but just Tom Brady. Who do you have coming out on this one? Kind of coming out on top on this one.
I'm gonna go Tom Brady.
Same. Uh,
Yeah, we saw a 52 matchup,
53.
and it went the same way. So I'm gonna say it's gonna be the same way for a 53 matchup.
No, this is that Super Bowl 53. They.
Yeah, I'm talking about when Tom Brady faced Nick Foles in
Oh,
a Super Bowl 52 matchup.
that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, I'm going with the Bucks. I mean, they've been.
Okay, so as of yesterday, last night, they had 11 total players on the COVID slash reserve list.
The Raiders.
Yeah.
Holy fuck. How are they not postponed this game or pushed it back? That doesn't make any sense. Come on, NFL.
Yeah, it looks like they are still looking to play. Uh,
Weird. That's weird. Mm. Well, speaking of looking to play, Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill? Or
you know who they already decided. It's going to be Winston
yeah.
because he's
Okay.
typical quarterback. I would love to see Taysom play, but
Same. Okay, based on efficiency, who would you choose to be the starting quarterback? We know Jameis Winston's efficiency for Tampa, and we haven't seen Taysom Hill really produce at the quarterback position. But off of efficiency, who would you ideally pick?
Jameis.
Oh, okay. This.
Just because I know what he can deliver as a quarterback.
Mhm,
Taysom, I don't really know him too well. Like, I'm not part of the coaching staff. This is an outside looking in.
mhm.
I'm going Jameis. Like, I could have film on him. Like, we could figure out plays easily. We know he could handle a typical offense in the NFL. While we see Taysom going from a tight end to running back to quarterback to halfback to um, who knows, safety out there, kicker, punt return specialist.
The reason that we both looked away and Chris stopped talking is because we both got a text message, and one of our guests coming on in the second part said, "I hope no one has something to do in the next 3 hours," which will probably be the longest second part podcast that we've had. Um, so does your choice of having Winston also go into terms of reliability at the quarterback position?
Exactly.
Okay.
Like, I know Winston does have plenty of interception in his career. Last year, he led the league in interceptions with
Hmm.
what, 30?
I think so. It was above 20. I don't.
Yeah. So it we do know he has that flaw in him, but we also know that he's able to throw the ball pretty well.
Mhm, mhm.
And I think with this type of offense, Sean Payton could work with that.
Yeah,
And we know this team is more of a dump the ball off really quickly and get the
mhm,
yak yards.
and especially
So
since Michael.
that could really work well for Jameis, says he doesn't have to throw the ball that deep anymore.
Yeah, especially since they have Michael Thomas back. I mean, you kind of have your XY receiver and as well as your main running back to help support him. So I think I would have to go with Jameis Winston for both of these. But personally, you and I agree that Taysom Hill should have probably made the main roster spot for quarterback.
I want them to give him a shot at least
Hmm.
one game.
Well, as everyone knows, the NBA draft was yesterday. Um, a lot of great picks, a lot of surprising picks, but a lot of great picks. So I have like my draft reactions, and I listed each player under each category of bus, steal, spot on, a weird pick, and don't know. And this is solely based on what each team has and what position the current players are.
Before you go into that, Micah, I do have a question for you. Were you surprised that there wasn't as many trades in the top five or even the top 10 as many people predicted?
I was totally surprised because I thought the Warriors would be training around. I thought Troy Pistons would be pursuing LaMelo Ball, but that didn't happen within the first 5 picks. Not even within the first 10 picks, I want to say. Um, but up to like from 10 on, I think the most amount of trades that we saw were a little less than 10. I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was a little less than 10. Um, so the way that I ordered this was the place that they're going, and the positions that that each team has, and what position each player that got drafted is. So for bus, everyone's gonna hate me for this, but I think Obi Toppin going to the Knicks is a bus, only because it's the Knicks. That's really it. So all of my Knicks picks are in the bus category. Isaiah Stewart going to the Pistons. I'm just going to name it off. Zeke Naji going to the Nuggets. He was a center. I remember him. Leandro Bomaro. He was a point guard going to Minnesota. Emmanuel Quickly going to the Knicks. Desmond Bain going to the Grizzlies. He was a shooting guard, I think. Daniel Oturu going to the Clippers. The Clippers don't really need a rookie. They need vet to be playing with them as well as leadership. I also put Thunder picks in here because everyone is expendable and able to be traded. So Theo Maledon, Vit Karishji, Yam Madar going to the Celtics. I think he was a guard in that position. Kenyon Martin Jr., son of former NBA player Kenyon Martin, is going to the Rockets. The reason I put him at a bust position is because they're in wouldn't say they're in because they're in rebuild mode, but the Rockets are going to hold James Harden, I believe. I think that's even though he can demand all the trade that he want. I have like all his contract in the next segment, but I think this is going to be a bust for Kenyon Martin Jr. to be a part of the Rockets. Unfortunately, I had to put Cassius Stanley as a bust going to the Pacers because there's no one there. I mean, Oladipo wants out, and I don't think he would fit in that system. Unlike possibly a younger system, maybe within the Miami Heat, but we don't know what the future of Cassie Stanley will hold. I mean, I love my Duke players, but I think Cassie Stanley going to the Pacers is a bust move. Paul Reed going to the 76ers, and that's all for my bus. For the steals, Onyeka Okongwu from USC going to Atlanta to the Hawks. Denny Avija going to the I don't know how to say his last name. Going to the Wizards. Cole Anthony going to Orlando. RJ Hampton going to the Bucks. Tyrell Terry going to the Mavericks. Tyler Bay going to the Mavericks. Robert Woodward. All my Kings picks are in the steals too because Kings do need it. Robert Woodward going to the Kings. Jamias Ramsey going to the Kings, and Nico Mannion going to the Warriors. That was probably the biggest steal that the Warriors could have had, getting that guard from Arizona. He's a great shooter, great ball handler. So that was one of the big steals that I saw. Spot on. Golden State Warriors picking James Wiseman, Charlotte picking LaMelo Ball. I can go into that a little bit later. Jalen Smith going to the Suns, Tyrese Halliburton going to the Kings, Josh Green going to the Mavericks, Tyrese Maxey, 76ers, Vernon Carey, Xavier Tillman Sr., Trey Jones going to the Spurs. I think the Spurs are also in rebuilding mode, so I think Trey Jones going to the Spurs is a great pick for them. CJ Elabi to Portland, Isaiah Jones to 76ers, Skylar Mays to the Hawks, Jalen Harris to the Raptors. Weird picks. Minnesota picking Anthony Edwards. I can go into this a little bit later, but that was a weird pick for me. Devin Vassell going to the Spurs. Kira Lewis Jr. going to the Pelicans. Peyton Richard going to the Celtics. He's a guard from Oregon. That's why I remembered him. You can go into that later too. Udoka Azubuike. Yeah. Going to the Jazz, Jaden McDaniels going to Minnesota, Elijah Hughes going to the Jazz, Jordan Nwora versus going to the Bucks, Justin Jessup going to the Warriors, Jay Scrub going to the Clippers, Sam Merrill going to the Bucks, and that's it for the weird picks. Don't knows are Patrick Williams, Isaiah Okoro, Killian Hayes, Aaron Neesmith. I thought it was Naismith, and I was like, that's perfect going to the Celtics. What a great name. Alexij Polks. Alexig joined to the Thunder. Sadiq Bey going to the Pistons. Precious Achiuwa going to the Heat. Malachi Flynn going to the Raptors. Saban Lee going to the Pistons. Nick Richards going to Hornets. Cassius Winston going to the Wizards. Grant Riller going to the Hornets, as well as Reggie Perry going to the Nets. There was a lot of good picks made by certain teams, but a lot of weird picks that they don't need unless they're going to just send them immediately to the G League. The reason why I thought Anthony Edwards going to Minnesota was a weird pick is because they have D'Angelo Russell already, as well as they just got someone else. Oh, and Ricky Rubio. Ricky Rubio is going back to Minnesota through a trade deal between the Thunder and Minnesota. So they have a point guard, they have a shooting guard. I don't know if they would put him at the 3 position. So Anthony Edwards going to Minnesota was a little bit of a weird pick for me. Even if he comes off the bench, I don't know where he fits within that system. James Wiseman, perfect pick. Like perfect pick for the Warriors. Since they lost Klay yesterday to a season-ending injury, they're going to need a lot of rebounds within the bottom. I mean, James can handle the ball, kick out, do a lot of things that a lot of guards can do. Just at the center position. Charlotte picking LaMelo Ball. This was a no-brainer for me, only because I think Terry Rozier is their starting guard, but you're gonna have Terry Rozier be the poster boy for Charlotte? I don't think so. I think the LaMelo Ball is gonna fit well into that system. I think they build around him, and not around. I think it's Miles Bridges who was their star for the past 2 years. So I think LaMelo Ball would be a good building piece. Steals. Cole Anthony to Orlando is probably a really good pick. So is RJ Hampton, super long, super lengthy, but can score. And we're going to talk about this later, but the Bucks are also trying to get Bogdanovich from the Kings, Jrue Holiday, who was a defensive stopper and a shooter as well. So they're surrounding a lot of people. We're surrounding a lot around Giannis in order to kick out and shoot. So a lot of the load doesn't get carried onto him. The Mavericks may be surprisingly scary next year because of the amount of shooters that they have and surrounding around Luka and Porzingis. Tyrell Terry, not Tyler. Tyrell Terry, probably the best shooter I've seen, freshman shooter I've seen at Stanford. Tyler Bay, I think, was a big as well. Who's their other pick? Josh Green. Who was their other picks? There were some that all of them were like in the good category for me. So Mavericks may be surprisingly good, maybe shooting lights out from three or just, handling and passing a lot well this year. So good on the Mavericks. Nico Mannion, as I said, probably the best shooter in the Pac-12, aside from Pritchard and Tyrell Terry. Did you watch the draft yesterday, Chris? Or did you only catch
I watched like the first 5 picks.
and then you were over it?
Then I went to get dinner.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I asked the question earlier. Like, were you surprised there was no trades within the top 5?
Very.
Because that's what I was reading up. This is what we were talking about the past few weeks.
Mhm.
That's what ESPN, NBA TV, all the stuff saying like, oh yeah, who was the first pick?
Anthony Edwards.
No, what was the team? I can't remember. Charlotte? No. What was that?
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Yeah, Minnesota was fielding picks until the last possible second.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, they're probably gonna trade for a couple of picks, maybe a player or two. Then I also was hearing rumors that Boston's gonna trade 3 first-round picks to move up in the top 5, or at least a couple of them to move into the top 10.
Mhm.
And there was not much happening there.
Wasn't
So
wasn't the start of the draft delayed? That's what I kept seeing on Instagram. Or was it like did it start right on time?
I believe it started right on time.
What about like the draft clock? Like the Minnesota did Minnesota go over it or no?
They probably did because they hit zeros before they changed the animation to your pick. The pick is in.
Ooh. I think that's what they're trying to hold out on. But a lot of great picks, a lot of talent this year. Um, Speaking of talent, if you want to call him that, James Harden might prefer the Nets, but the Warriors might be able to offer the Rockets the best deal. I just want to get your opinion. How scary would that
Wow,
be?
be an all-star game.
It would. Like literally every game that Warriors play would be an all-star game if Klay Thompson was not hurt. I think since Thompson got hurt, it kind of messed up that deal a little bit. Um, so personally, I think this would mess up team chemistry way too much because as someone that isn't a natural guard or a natural one, it would mess it up
Yeah.
all, because James needs the ball in his hands all the time. Um, so James is guaranteed over the next 2 years 46.8 million. Uh,
Ooh.
oh, sorry, he still has a contract for the next 2 years, but is guaranteed money from that as well as a 46.8 million player option for the 2022-2023 season.
Wow.
Some of the options would be the Nets would trade Spencer Dinwiddie. So I'm going through the amount of or the different teams that would actually trade for him. Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, and future draft picks to acquire just one player. That's what the Nets would have to offer. Miami. So the other teams are Miami, the Celtics, the Sixers, and the Warriors. So Adebayo and Hero would be that Miami trade. Jaylen Brown versus Marcus Smart would be that Celtics trade. Between Simmons and Embiid, you would have to trade either one of them in order for Harden to work around with or work with one another or work with either one. This year for the Warriors, it would have been James Wiseman as well as a 2021 first round pick, which would translate to a top 5 pick, as well as Andrew Wiggins. I still say the Nets would benefit from a Harden trade. I don't know about you, but I think the Warriors are giving up way too much. They're I think they're on the dynasty decline. But that's why I say that the Nets are would give a better trade value for Harden. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Um, they were the one of the top favorite picks right when we broke that news to trade for Harden, even before Harden was requesting a trade.
Hmm.
This is right when Westbrook requested a trade.
Hmm.
Um, that the Nets might have been in with for James Harden.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
They're looking for that third superstar to fill out
Yeah.
that roster.
Mhm. Well, speaking of superstar, I think of him as a superstar, but Drew Holiday from the Pelicans was traded for Eric Bledsoe and George Hill, adding both height and defense to the Bucks' caliber of skills that they already have, as well as 3 first-round picks, I think, from this year or throughout the next couple of years. Um, Kind of like this pick. He's a great scorer off the dribble. He can shoot a little bit, if I can remember correctly, but he's a great defender. So it's not on the Lopez brothers as well as Giannis to be picking up the slack for uh, towards defense, as well as it doesn't rely on Giannis to actually score as much as he already does. Not sure what you know um, about Drew Holiday, but what do you think about this trade that happened on Tuesday, I believe?
I say it's a good trade for the Bucks. Bucks, as you said, get a great defender. This is something we were talking about, I think,
Hmm.
on Monday's pod.
Hmm.
We talked about which teams are actually good defensively, and you said New Orleans, because of Drew Holiday,
Yeah.
is one of the great defenders out there in the league. So this really helps that club out on defense. We just saw Giannis win Defensive Player of the Year, correct?
MVP. Yeah, I think
Uh, what's up?
as well as MVP, but
Yeah,
he won both.
he won both. So that team's going to be a little more loaded on defense, and we know Giannis can score.
Hmm.
Um,
And they have offensive weapons coming, like big
yeah,
time.
so this is a great trade for the Bucks. For the um, Pelicans, they get some picks for the future to build around Zion,
Mhm.
and hopefully they could be contenders for the next couple of years.
Hopefully, hopefully. Um, Also, Bogdan or Bodan, no, Bogdan Bogdanovic is going to be entering restricted free agency. I don't know the difference between restricted free agency and free agency. Um,
I got this one.
okay.
So restricted free agency is they're still a free agent, but the club that had them before can match any deal
Mm,
within the 24 hours.
being traded
What?
of being traded.
Of being signed. So I'm a free agent, but I'm a restricted free agent. Let's say I came from the Lakers. I'm gonna go sign with the Bucks. The Lakers have 24 hours to match that deal.
Oh, I see. I see.
Unrestricted means I can sign with anybody. I don't have anything
Mhm.
connected to me from my last team. I could just go sign.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I understand now. So
Only reason is because the NFL does the same exact same thing.
yeah, I figured. Um, the Milwaukee Bucks are looking to sign Bogdan Bogdanovic from the Sacramento Kings. I think this is a great trade because Bogdanovic can score. He's a natural big. He's a small forward, I believe, but he can score. So I think this gives a little bit of relief for Giannis as well as the other non-scoring players within the Bucks. You watch Kings games, right? Or tend to sometimes.
Sure, no, I can't lie.
um, I think this is a good trade for the Bucks to make. I don't know about the Kings. I would think they would want to match because I don't think they want to give away a score like Bogdanovic.
Yeah, this could be a really great signing for Bucks.
As long as
A-
yeah, as long.
and just to push themselves to that championship level.
Mhm.
Um, but if the Kings are looking to actually compete, they probably will try to match any offers.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%. And then lastly, Chris brought it up. Klay Thompson, Warriors. Klay Thompson suffered a Achilles injury yesterday, uh, literally minutes before the draft. Um, I don't know. Though, do you think it's the end of a Warriors dynasty?
I can't say that for sure because you still have Steph Curry, which is a two-time MVP player.
Mhm.
It does hurt them a lot, but having Steph Curry back out there on the court, fully healthy, fully rested after what 5 seasons of going to the finals straight, that does put a lot of tax on your body playing nearly another season
Mhm.
within just 5 years, having less time to recover.
Yeah.
So I think this let down season for that club.
Mhm.
Um, lets all these players recharge,
Mhm.
uh, fix any wounds that they've had in the past.
Yeah.
Klay Thompson was coming off the ACL injury, so it's a big hurt for him. It could now label him as an injury-prone player and may cost him deals in the future,
Uh-huh.
just because of having two major injuries within a couple of years of each other.
Yeah.
As you see that a lot, like terminology for any player in any league, if they get like a couple of injuries, they are called injury prone, even though they're just freak accidents.
Mhm.
They think that player is now more brittle
Yeah.
and won't be able to suit up, and his contract might be down. We saw that with Steph Curry when he was young, tearing his ankles a lot,
Yeah.
and his contract extension when that first happened was probably below his market value,
Mhm.
just because they were scared of if he gets injured again.
Mhm. That's good.
So
Sorry. Uh, my microphone was going off for no reason.
it's all
Uh,
good.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it is the end. I mean, Curry is making it into his mid 30s. I think he's almost 33, as well as Draymond Green and Klay Thompson have just passed the 30 mark. Um,
Yeah, but we still see a lot of like uh, great players in their 30s. LeBron James.
that's
Um,
that's King James. He
true.
he
Um,
earns over $2.5 million on his body every year. Um,
true. But how about Michael Jordan winning most of the championships in his 30s?
you're right. You're right.
Like I don't. I feel like basketball you could play a little bit longer than your prime.
Hmm.
Um, than other sports like NFL, you have a short-term career. I think the average amount for non-quarterbacks are around 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
While like basketball, I think it's closer to 6 to 8.
yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't see unless like God forbid that fucking trade goes through for James Harden, but I don't see them getting someone like Clay who can is a spot shooter. Like I don't see them getting anyone like that. Um,
I've been hearing rumors of Kelly Oubre
oh my God, that would be oh for who?
for the
What
Warriors.
I know, but for who would the Warriors give up? Andrew?
Uh, it could be. It could also be like other players and future draft picks,
Oh my,
as they do own Minnesota's next year's draft pick.
that's true. That's true. Oh my God, that would be nasty. Then we said that I said that last podcast that giving up Kelly Oubre for the Suns giving up Kelly Oubre the was the was the low point of that trade between the Thunder and the Suns because Kelly Oubre is actually nice. Um, God, him going to the Warriors would be crazy. It would also be scary at the same time. Um, oh, who would be next man up? Because I think Kelly Oubre would be the three. Green would be the four. James Wiseman would be the five. Who would be two? I don't know who's.
Or you could put Wiggins at 3 and Oubre at 2.
Geez, they go from a small ball team to a big team at that point. Wow.
Well, at least all of them, other than Curry and Green, are relatively young, with them under the 25 mark, so they still have fresh yigs, legs.
Yeggs. Um, do you? I was like contemplating this last night. Do you think the possibility of trading Clay Thompson would be up in the air, or would they try to stick with him?
I don't think they could trade Klay Thompson right now. Not seeing him for 2 years, you probably will get a less value than he's worth. So I think that organization probably would like to keep Klay, not just because of what he has brought to that organization, but because of how much return you can get for value of that player.
That's right. That's right. There's so many things that have happened this year in the NBA, and it's like it's killing me on the inside. I don't know. We have another year until Klay Thompson can play basketball again, and I mean, it took almost a year and a half for Kobe to come back after his Achilles injury.
Yeah, but Kobe was a lot older though.
He was what, 34, 33?
That was close to 36.
What was that, 2013? Right?
Yeah, let me.
If it's 2013, then he's either 34 or 35. Um, yeah, this year for the NBA has been a little bit special this year, especially with everything happening, the bubble, the injuries.
It was April 13th, 2013.
2013. So it was 34, 35. I forget his birthday. I think it was like August something. Yeah,
See, he was born August 23rd, 1978.
40 minus 2 years. Or sorry, minus 5 years. 35. Okay.
Yeah, so 4 years different. That's pretty big.
hmm Well, oh yeah. You're right. Yep. Just one thing I got to say is wishing well for Klay Thompson's speedy recovery, as well as
100%.
yep, the rest of the league has done it already. Hate to see you hate to see injuries for players that are on their feet all the time, especially jumping, running, exploding off the ground. So all prayers go to Klay Thompson and for a speedy recovery, and hopefully in the next year and a half, he's out there playing again with his team, winning hopefully one more championship with them. So we have a part two. Honestly, me and Kris don't know how long this podcast is going to be. Over on half
I'm
hour.
saying it's could probably be a 24-hour stream.
Jesus Christ. I think the over under right now is about 3.5. I think I'm going with the under on this one. Hopefully, it's not 3.5.
I feel like it's gonna be the over.
But another more exciting news is that this is Kris's first time taking over the podcast and actually, asking the questions that I would usually ask. But we're making this a all baseball podcast. Really excited to see what he produces. Yeah. Well, with that being said, let's get into part two.